Okay, so Frank, I just saw a report recently that claimed that fraud might actually have been on the increase since the Sarbanes-Oxley Act was enacted back in 2002. I guess my first question is that accurate? And if so, why do you think that's happened?
Bill, I actually think it is accurate, but I think a good bit of it's because we as CPAs have become significantly more attuned to looking at red flags and become much more aware of instances where fraud can occur. So our profession has put a great deal of emphasis right now on how to deal with fraud, how to identify it, how to report it, and kind of that ethics decision tree so we can stay on top of it and report it appropriately.
So it might not necessarily be a case of more of it, but we're just paying closer attention?
Yeah, that's generally speaking my perception on it. And I've seen the similar reports as well. I often ask my students, do you think society's standards have deteriorated over time? And I think it actually hasn't. I think it's about the same, but people are becoming much more cognizant of their ethical responsibilities, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think Sarbanes-Oxley, though, was the reason for it. I think our profession, the great job that Tom Hood has done, the MACPA and the AICPA at focusing our efforts on fraud has had a much bigger effect on it. I really do.
So what do CPAs need to do to kind of bring that number of fraud cases down?
You know, I think that's really important. First and foremost, I tell CPAs, set the tone at the top, even if you're not at the top of the organization. What we do and how we respond as a profession does in fact make a significant difference. And Bill, the other thing I tell everybody I talk to across the board relative to ethics and dealings with matters of fraud is that it's extremely important that you think about moral responses to ethical dilemmas before they happen. I'll give you an example. If you've ever been coming home from a meeting or something, you had a discussion or an argument with someone, and you started thinking about all the things you wish you had said, this is where I would encourage you, where ethics and fraud are concerned, to think about those answers and those thoughts beforehand. In other words, train your staff, train yourself to be aware of what fraud instances can occur. Because in my experience in dealing with financially troubled companies, in an awful lot of cases, much more than I care to admit, organizations get involved in behavior that's suspect because they didn't really think about it, and the next thing they know, they're in the middle of a fraud claim and they're not even aware that how it got started to begin with.
What's the out of everything that they could possibly do, the one thing that is more important than any other that CPAs should do to, as you say, to set that tone at the top, to encourage ethics in their organizations?
They need to know absolutely what your core values are, and I can't emphasize that enough. Let me give you an example. Know what you believe in. Know what it is that you stand for as a CPA. Integrity is an example, and I use the difference between integrity versus deception. I ask people frequently, if you ask someone a question and they answer it in such a way that they know you're going to draw the wrong conclusion, have they deceived you? And most everybody says yes. Then I'll say, is that deception a violation of the integrity standard of CPAs? Most people will say yes, but not all. And I would encourage you to recognize that in our own profession, under our own ethical standards, we have objectivity, integrity, due care, and professionalism that are a key component, and independence are key components of our profession. And I recommend people to think about integrity and recognize that deception is a violation of the integrity principle, and know what your core values are. For CPAs, are really clear. They're embodied in the CPA vision that MACPA was a big part of, and I just encourage you to know what your core values are and don't deviate from them.